comes to influence and persuasion, agreement is very important. In fact, I would go as far as to say it's essential. Like, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to influence or persuade someone ethically or without using force unless they agree with what you're saying or what you are presenting to them. The problem is, most people, when they're trying to get someone to agree with them, they're trying to just shove their point of view down the other person's throat, and that kind of backfires and makes the other person put walls up and become resistant, and then the situation can go south really fast. So in today's video, what I'm going to share with you is a very simple hypnotic language pattern that you could use to subtly get people to agree with you. Hey guys, my name is Paul Macetta, and I am a researcher and publisher in the field of human communication. So if you like learning about things like influence, persuasion, human psychology, NLP, hypnotic language, then go ahead and consider subscribing. So today's video is about tag questions. And you can actually find this in my book, The Black Book of Hypnotic Language Patterns. I'll put a link in the description if you're interested in checking it out, where I share this technique and 100 more just like it. So what are tag questions? Tag questions are questions that you add to the end of a statement that you make to another person with the hopes of them accepting and agreeing with that statement. So let me start by saying I absolutely love questions. I tell people all the time, if you want to become a really good communicator, if nothing else, learn how to ask really good questions. The ability to ask really good questions serves so many different purposes. First of all, let's just take it at a very basic level. It helps remove awkward silent moments. So if you've ever been in a situation where you're talking to somebody, especially like if you're on a first date, and all of a sudden you're in one of these awkward silent moments where nobody's saying anything and you're kind of looking around the room and you're like, what do I say? If you get really good at answering questions and you have like a repertoire of like 5 to 10 questions that you're ready to fire off at any given moment, that can reignite a conversation at almost any given moment. And if you have follow-up questions to those initial questions, that could completely change the dynamic of a conversation when you communicate with somebody. Another powerful benefit of questions is that they enable you to peek inside the mind of the listener. So when you're communicating with somebody, realize that you should be listening the majority of the time, paying attention to what the other person is saying so that you can tailor your message in such a way that they find it beneficial to them. Well, the only way that you could really tailor the message to be beneficial to them is if you know what is beneficial to them. And one of the easiest ways to figure that out is to ask people questions. Another benefit of questions is if you're trying to help somebody work through something, if you're trying to coach somebody, if you're trying to consult somebody, if you're trying to teach somebody something, sometimes asking them thought-provoking questions helps them get to the answer themselves, where they reach an internal decision instead of you teaching it to them. And even more important and more powerful is when you're trying to persuade someone to do something. If you ask the person to at least think about what you're presenting to them instead of just forcing it down their throat and expecting them to accept it, what winds up happening, again, similar to the example that I just gave, is they can come to the conclusion on their own. And when they come to the conclusion that you want them to come to on their own, they own it and they accept it, as opposed to feeling like you coerced them or manipulated them or forced them to believe what you want them to believe. So that's my rhetoric on how important I believe the ability to ask great questions is. So if you learn nothing else, learn how to ask great questions. So today we're talking specifically about tag questions. So tag questions are questions that you add onto the back of a statement that you want your listener to agree with. So let's say somebody came to me and they told me that they wanted to become more confident in their communication. So I worked with them one-on-one, helping them become more confident in their communication with other people. And so I would teach them, let's say, a set of techniques. And then after I taught them those set of techniques, I would say something like, so you want to become more confident, right? And then they would agree with that statement, and then I would reinforce the reason why I'm teaching them those techniques. And I would tie those techniques to the overall goal that they have of becoming more confident. This works really well if you're teaching somebody something or showing them something that they might not necessarily want to do. So you would tie that thing that they don't want to do with the benefit that they're going to experience if they do it. So I give this example a lot, but let's just say I was a personal trainer and I'm helping somebody lose weight and they're going to lose 10 pounds in the next 30 days. That's my promise to them. And part of that is that they have to restrict their calories. They're going to be at a certain amount of calories that they have to intake every day. And let's say I was explaining this to them and they were like, man, like I really hate counting calories. I would say something like, but you do want to lose weight, right? So again, I'm always kind of reframing and redirecting them back to their overall goal of what they want. Now, I can certainly then reframe calorie restriction. I have another video where I show you how to reframe something that somebody sees as a negative into something else. But the point is, in this context, I'm always circling back to the overall goal and the overall benefit through the tag question. Another way I could use this is if I was in a negotiation with somebody and I was laying out all of the different aspects of the offer. Well, what I would do is I would try to tie as many of those aspects of the offer to the benefit and the outcome that is in it for that person. And then I would simply say, like, you could see how beneficial this offer is to you, right? And so just like many of the hypnotic language patterns that I share, it's not only about using it once in a conversation, although sometimes that's perfectly fine depending on the context. It's when you can subtly layer these types of tag questions throughout an interaction with somebody, where you're constantly reinforcing the benefit that they want to achieve, right? So I'm constantly saying, but you do want to get better at the guitar, right? Like, you could understand how this technique I just showed you is going to enable you to become a better guitar player, right? And you could understand why if you continue to think that way about playing the guitar, it would hurt you. But this new way of thinking about guitar playing, like, you could see how that's going to make you a better player, right? And so when you're constantly reinforcing the thoughts that you want people to have, the beliefs that you want them to have throughout the interaction by using tag questions, the beautiful part is that they start to formulate these beliefs and conclusions, but they feel in their heart of hearts that they came up with the belief and conclusion on their own. And they did. You just simply guided them to where you wanted them to be, and that's what makes it super powerful. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, give me a like, leave me a comment, and subscribe to the channel and hit that bell notification so you get updated when I release more videos like this.